ultimately, on a regulatory level, the Federal Highway Administration will have to approve it, and there's a lot of federal regulations around road studies that they will be reviewing this entire study process to see if they adequately looked at all the environmental impacts, if it pours too much traffic onto certain roadways, and they'll have to look at a lot of issues in addition to whether or not certain stakeholders and agencies were effectively involved in the process. And as far as the money is concerned, that comes down a lot to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and that's a group of a lot of different city leaders in the metro area, and they administer federal money. But some of the real pork for something like this would come from federal delegation, especially Congressman Boswell, who sits on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and he was the member that funded a lot of this environmental impact statement process through a federal earmark back in 2005. And so I'd say Congressman Boswell is a really key decision maker on if the type of money would be available for something like this, which would cost $600,000.
I mean, is it kind of out of the local hands then, really?
Well, the local hands are already pushing for it, so it seems as though a lot of the local officials have already made up their minds on it, and so, you know, that's hopefully they can be persuaded.
Well, so what are we doing here then, I wonder?
We're providing information for this document called the Environmental Impact Statement, and that statement ends up incorporating input, and it'll go to the Federal Highway Administration, and it'll go to Polk County leaders, and so it's a part of the process. We don't make any decisions.
The information will go to some of the people in the decision-making process.
Yeah, definitely. And the critical people, I mean, I wish I could say that I felt public input could persuade the Polk County supervisors, but I haven't seen any indication that they're closely listening about whether or not the public wants this project. They're only looking for input on where it would be built, unfortunately.
But no build is an alternative.
It's an alternative, but only because the federal regulations require it to be an alternative. So that has to be on the list of options.
And the ability to get the funds is in our favor.
Well, yeah, the transportation funding is spread very, very thin right now, especially with the recent impacts to roads from flooding, and that's why a lot of leaders have discussed the gas tax
People
increase.
People are traveling less, for God's sake.
Yeah. They are. They're traveling a lot less, and so all the traffic studies that go into something like this really need to be turned on their head because, because the price of gas is rising, and this just isn't
It's not going to go down, and when the president goes into Iran, you're going to have $200 a barrel oil overnight.
Yeah, some people are projecting a potentially rapid spike in prices of oil, and that could really, if this is all permanent like this, then we don't have any money for trade.
Then the only person that comes out ahead is Snyder's and Associates, who's gotten thousands and thousands of dollars to do the study and this work up to this point.
To bring attention to, Wandro actually works for Snyder and Associates now, and he was a DOT director under Vilsack, and now he's recently been appointed to the Rebuild Iowa Commission by Governor Culver, so he's now in a position to also be determining some of the state's flood response work. So, we have some pretty heavy, power hitters within a certain company, and it's unfortunate that this meeting was not held in a place that was more publicly available, like a high school gym that everybody knows where it is. Instead we have to go to a private office that makes it feel like we're,
under control.